Let me bring this in here. Mia Kim, what's going on? Happy Sunday. Sorry if I haven't been speaking too much. I just got a lot on my mind. So, but welcome anyway. I mean, I'll get started in a couple more minutes if I see I have any more viewers on this live stream. So, yeah, there's a lot of stuff I just want to get off my chest. But if you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe if you haven't done so already. The channel's grown quite a bit because of all of you, so I really appreciate the support. And check out my eBay store. The link is in the description box of this live stream. But it's just going to be me talking about some random stuff, that I want to get off my chest. If you saw the thumbnail, this might get a little deep. I know it's kind of off topic from what the channel stands for. Obviously, it's a hobbyist channel. Mia Kim is asking how I'm doing. I'm kind of as closer as Christmas has been getting closer. I've been a little beside myself, unfortunately. It's just there's certain realities that have really hit me hard. In particular, yesterday. I was not planning on doing anything yesterday. Today, I kept to myself pretty much all day, except for going out to Walmart just now. I saw one of my buddies. I thought it was a trespasser on his patio. I was about to run up there and go throw somebody a beat down, but it turned out to be him. We were having a little chat, and then I came here and started this live stream. But it's just a lot of things are on my mind, unfortunately. I was talking with my mother on the phone yesterday. Kaysen, what's going on? Kaysen Copeland, how you doing? Welcome to this live stream. I know the holidays can really bring out a lot of emotion in people, and this is certainly an emotional Christmas for myself. If you've been watching the channel or you're new to the channel, I'll kind of catch you up on things. A lot of things have happened this year. My ex-girlfriend had me arrested for no goddamn reason, and I had to go to court to fight to have my record expunged. And I was acquitted because of it, because I wouldn't bow down to her wishes. She was trying to push me out of my apartment here. She used to get angry when my friends would come over here. It was pretty awful. It was awful, and that's what kicked off a whole series of events. One of my buddies here next door passed away. My father died in June. There are a lot of other things I'm not going to talk about. Yeah, a lot of things have happened this year that I never wanted or asked for, nor did I even anticipate. But the big one is the death of my dad that happened in June. I had certain content on the channel. I took it down, for let me just read the chat here. Man, you gotta understand, people are gonna be crazy in your life. People are just gonna treat you the way that you don't want to. Yeah, I know. I mean, I'm always the type to stay in my lane. I don't change for anybody, unless I alter some things. And by the way, Mia Kim, thank you for the sentiment. Yeah, I'm that type. I'm all sorts of stubborn, I guess you can say. Listen, I'm gonna like my football. I'm gonna like my collectibles. I'm gonna continue to be into sneaker collecting and all that sort of thing. Even though the sports card hobby has kind of been a mess these days. I'm gonna be who I am, and that's it. And that's how it's gonna be, But the one thing that's really affected me the most is the loss of my dad. I didn't want to make a separate video because I want to take my time, to kind of discuss this topic. I want to save the reviews for the reviews, and when I feel like venting, like today, I might as well just save that for the live streams because this way I can kind of like pace myself a little bit more. I don't feel like I'm being rushed, because usually my videos are anywhere between 10 to 20 minutes long. So, but yesterday was a beautiful day here where I live. It was absolutely gorgeous. I was on my patio. Um, I probably drank about a bottle of wine by myself yesterday, an entire bottle of Merlot, and I was just, listening to Christmas music, and I was reminded of my dad. This is going to be the first year we're not going to have him here, and it's been getting harder and harder on me. I've been trying to contain it and hide it from people, but at this point, there's no point in me hiding it anymore. I've been extremely depressed off camera because of him. Uh, you know, I knew he was sick. I didn't know how sick he was. My family kept it from me. I mean, with the conversations I had, I knew something was wrong anyway because there was a period where I lost contact from him. It was actually around this time where I lost contact. To be more precise, it was almost around Halloween time last year I lost contact with him. He wasn't answering my calls. And I had no idea how sick he was. I mean, with the conversations we had from the time I left New York until I moved back to this property here, him and I talked to each other at least twice a week, at some cases 3 times a week. And there were periods I didn't call him, and then he'd call me up and be upset at me because I didn't call him. I'm like, Dad, I'm busy, and that's when I sprung it on him. Over the summer that I started my little eBay business here, and I never heard my dad so proud because my dad went through a lot of things when I was younger. The things that my dad had to do to put food on the table, especially around now or Christmas time. He would go to the parishes, he would go to the local churches and try to get toys for us. I mean, there was a point where my dad would have stacks of money like this, but that's when Union Construction was doing well. But towards the late 80s and early 90s, man, it was an absolute disaster. And my dad fell apart because he didn't know. It's like me with a lot of things I went through with that whole 9/11 stuff and, what the mother of my kids did to me and what her family did to me by alienating me from my own family and being homeless for a year and everything else, man. I know what that feels like to all of a sudden just feel like you've been removed from the world and what it's like for the world not to give a shit about you anymore. Like you don't even exist. And it seems people only come around when they need something, they want something, or they're just, trying to save face. And I'm sorry to be cynical, but that's the reality of human behavior, unfortunately. And this year has been one of the most difficult years I've had because of what my ex did to me for no reason at all. I've showed that acquittal letter here on the channel, but I've since taken it down because it just doesn't look good. It's not good for me. I want this channel to stand by what it's meant for, and that's to, be for escapism and talk about baseball cards and collectibles and stuff, But, I took all that stuff down because it just didn't feel right. And a lot of people have been telling me, there's certain things I'm not going to get into discussions over in this live stream, but a lot of things have happened to me or against me or around me that have been completely out of my control. And again, the biggest one, was losing my dad. And that reality really set in yesterday. I had a conversation with my mother, on the phone yesterday. And again, I took down a whole bottle of Merlot by myself and got hammered. And her and I was sharing some stuff with her that that only my dad told me that I wouldn't share with anybody. And I guess now at this point in time, it doesn't really matter because we used to have all sorts of father and son discussions. But towards the end, before I lost contact with him, he was starting to fade off. he couldn't construct sentences. He wasn't articulating himself quite clearly. He was reminiscing in the past. I'm self-censoring here because there's a lot of personal things he said to me. It's not at my leisure to discuss what those personal things are. That has to stay, between us. But let's just say he was hurting a lot in more ways than I knew. He knew. They always say, like, you kind of know when your time is up, and he in his own way knew it was coming. And then for all them months until probably, was it before or was it after all this shit happened with my ex-girlfriend, that I got this random WhatsApp call. It was a video call I think it was from my sister, and it was my dad, because he was in the hospital all that time, in and out of hospitals. Little did I know that he was suffering from dementia and bladder cancer, and he had issues with his lungs and everything else. Like, the man was falling apart. It was nice to see him on camera. I got to talk to him. And then let me just read this quickly. Kaysen, all right, bro, I hope you have the best rest of your life until you're in your grave. Want you to have the best day. Might be back, but right now I have to leave. Yeah, thank you so much. I have been paying attention to the chat, and I'm sorry for your situation too. From what I saw there, I had kids and they all burned in a fire. That sucks, man. It's I don't want to say I'm glad I'm not the only one, but I think that's a sentiment that will fit for this conversation. I know I'm not the only one going through hard times, man. I guess the point of this live stream is, if you're going through a hard time right now during the holidays, you're not the only one, ladies and gentlemen. Believe me when I'm telling you. YouTubers have this way of conveying or creating a narrative where everything is fine and dandy and everything is happy and joyful, and sometimes it's really not like that behind the scenes, But anyway, yeah, I got to see my dad on camera. And then the conversations on the phone started again, but I could tell, like, he was losing it little by little. He was losing his battle with life, because he would go, I forget, I don't know, and he would just like snap out of it. My girlfriend made me shut it down because she said she would beat me. Yeah, man, the mother of my kids. That's another sad situation I'm not even going to get into, because I'm just going to say this, for a grown woman to refuse to leave her mother and father, and to alienate the father of the kids, and to push them out simply because you want to live with your mommy and daddy for the rest of your life, it's very disgusting. It's very disgusting, because you have to have what you want. And that kind of involves a lot of what I'm talking about, especially like with my ex. This is around the time again where I found out, my dad just came out of the hospital, and I think I talked to him on the phone around that period, just before things fell apart. And she wanted what she wanted. She didn't care. She wanted to force me out of my home here. She wanted to stop me from being with my friends who don't even come here anymore to my patio. I used to have people coming in and out of my home and on and off my patio nearly two to three times a week. Understandably, my friend that used to live next door, he moved in with his girlfriend and moved into North Charlotte, but that's a different story. But she did all of that to me out of retaliation because I didn't give her what she wanted. And it's the same situation like with the mother of my kids. I can't love her, and I can't forgive her until God forces her to open up her eyes and see what she did is wrong by choosing her mother and father over the father of her kids. There is no forgiveness. There is no love. There is no sympathy. There is no compassion, because she's been allowed to get away with this for all these years. I know that's cruel and that's cold. It breaks my heart, but I've had to develop this over years, because again, just like with everything else, and I've proven, I don't have to prove myself to anybody, that like with my ex putting me in jail for no reason, because she was trying to force me to marry her and force me to leave my home when I just moved here. She was trying to chase me away from my friends, and in retaliation, she made up all this bullshit about me. And I sat in jail for 4 nights, and of course the charges were thrown out because they were ridiculous. It didn't even go in front of the judge. It's the same thing like with the mother of my kids. She accused me of cheating on her and sleeping with other women and, you know, all this other crap. Meanwhile, her parents barely speak English. They can't read or write English. She does all the fucking paperwork for them. She doesn't cook, probably to this day. We've been separated now for what, 8 years? I know for a fact she doesn't cook. She could probably make egg sandwiches and boil water at best. But everybody in my old neighborhood knows, man, I took care of my kids, and I got thousands of hours of videos. All right, you're gone. Fuck you. You're out. Goodbye. You're gone. Fucking cocksucker. You're gone. Anyway, with that being said, we move along with the conversation. So, but the simple fact of the matter is, you know, I've had a lot of hardships in my life, but this year with the loss of my dad, it was probably the worst. It was the worst. You know, right here on my work desk, I actually keep his mass card right here with me, right in front of me, so he's looking right in my face. And I have a big black and white photo right there by my front door where I have an icon from the corner of his coffin from the day he was buried. You know, I'm just, and forget the noise in the background. I got the dishwasher running. Yeah, yesterday a whole flood of emotions came out. And now I'm trying to accept that, you know, he's really gone. You know, and I've had to go through all of this disgusting shit this year that I never asked for and never wanted. And there are a lot of things I'm really holding back on because I'm going to keep my word to someone. If he's watching this, I'm going to try to keep my word or not talk about certain things. But certain people need to apologize, in my opinion, for treating me the way they did. That's all I'm going to say. I'm very hurt. I'm very, very beside myself, especially now. It's Christmas time. You know, I've had enough. I've had enough. You know, my buddy Wolf that was around the corner was one of the most misunderstood guys, I think. I got to know him quite well. And I tried to stop him from doing this twice right here in my home. I actually have a photo with the two of us, with me wearing this Jeff Hostetler jersey right here in my living room the one night he came here. And he was threatening to do something not right to himself, you know. I've been in that position myself, but I've never been on the other side of the coin before, excuse me. I had to stop him from removing himself from the world. I want to try to be YouTube friendly here. But I think he was severely misunderstood, and it's because of other people that his life got all screwed up. And how do I know that? Because the person that helped to screw up his life here is the daughter of someone who still lives here now that caused me all sorts of grief. That's as far as I'm going to take it. And I'm not going to say any more than that. And of course, the good guy, me, gets punished for doing the right thing. And again, forgive me if I'm being vague. It's just, you know, I want to make sure I keep my word and not discuss certain things. Not that there's legal paperwork. There's no legal paperwork or NDAs or anything like that. I don't want to get too deep into it. The simple fact of the matter is that this year has been just very tough. And I'm sure many of you have had many things fall into your lap that you didn't want, didn't ask for. Probably wasn't your fault, or you're a victim of circumstance. But, you know, the realization of not having my father here is very tough. It's very tough indeed. It's quite painful, you know, and I let all that emotion out of me yesterday. I was talking with my mother on the phone and communicating with her a lot of things that my dad said about her and how he felt about certain things. It really, it just needed to come out of me. I've been holding it back all these months since he passed, and he's been dead since June of this year. And it all just came pouring out of me because In a lot of ways, I still haven't accepted it yet. That's why a lot of YouTubers are full of shit and idiots like that was in the comment section here just now that I nuked off my channel. They think it's funny. I don't think it's funny. Maybe their family should die in a car fire. God forgive me. Maybe their families, maybe their kids should have autism or schizophrenia, something like that. I don't wish bad on people, but when I see comments like that, you deserve the suffering and the pain. With that being said, you got to be above that sort of thing. Forgive me for even, don't pay attention. What's that, Case in Copeland? Yeah, it's just some idiot came in there. You're going to see block comments in the chat. They're worthless human beings. I couldn't give a shit. They don't pay my rent. They don't pay my bills. They don't feed me. It's more internet idiots looking to get a rise out of me to, you know how it is with the internet. People want to, see people react on camera because this is all they got. But I bet you when they walk down the street, there's some bully that wants to beat the piss out of them. So then they go on the internet and hide behind their phones or their computers. It's funny on this topic. Recently somebody filed a false privacy complaint about me showing my own mugshots because you got certain people out there that want to control the narrative against me to try to make me into something that I'm not. So when I put my own mugshots out there and I created the true narrative behind those things, that of course I was acquitted in both occasions, they want to create the narrative and say, well, look, his mugshots, he's guilty, he's a criminal, he's bad against women, I'm glad his father's dead, and all that kind of thing, when of course it's not true. Except for the part that they were happy that my father died. I've got that and printed out in my records with the other stuff. But people just want to get a rise out of you. But whatever, listen, I'm going to stay on course here. Unfortunately, I've got all that paperwork. If you're talking about the comments, I'm not going to unblock this person. Once you're blocked, you're blocked on my channel. That's it. I don't give people a second chance. You want to be an asshole? Do it somewhere else. We're talking about me and my father. So anyway, back on topic here again. Yeah, I bawled out quite a bit yesterday and just let out a whole lot of emotion that I've been holding in for the past 6 months since he's passed. Because I can remember a lot of good Christmases that we had with him. I mean, there used to be toys back in the 80s stacked to the ceiling where we lived and where we grew up. But, once he lost his career, he went to parishes and went to churches to get us toys. It's things like that I remember. That he didn't phone it in with us, that at least he tried. Well, what was my father's favorite thing to do? I could tell you this, he lived, ate, and breathed construction. That was his life. That's what he did. Extracurricular activities, he loved cars, he loved firearms, he was a big meat eater. He loved watching sci-fi and old school black and white war movies. He loved that kind of stuff. But he lived, ate, and drank construction. That was like his whole life. That's what he was good at. And like me with a lot of things in my life, it was taken away from him. And I watched him fall apart. I'm the oldest of the three, in my family, with the exception of my mother. I have a younger brother and a much younger sister, but I witnessed his wrath. Now, listen, I don't do this. Let me just read this comment for transparency for everybody. So Case in Copeland said, do you know what, man? I wish I can gift you right now, but I don't have any money. I don't do this for the money. Listen, that's what my eBay store is for. I have an eBay store. My eBay store supplements my income. I made that clear even when I first put the channel together. I'll never ask anybody to join the Patreon or go through PayPal or any of that stuff. That's not my forte. I don't do that stuff. Other YouTube content creators can do that. I have a legitimate small business that I run off of YouTube. If you do want to check it out, you don't have to buy anything. I'm not asking you to buy anything, but if you're just curious, there's a link in the description of this live stream. I usually put it on the chat, but I don't have my computer on to actually post that link. But yeah, if you click the link in the description box below this live stream, it'll take you right to my eBay store. I don't do that sort of thing. A lot of other people do that. They call that e-begging. You know, there's one guy who's getting roasted right now, Dark Side Phil, I think they call him, or DSP or something like that. Man, people have been kicking his ass left and right. I've been seeing it pop up in my newsfeed here on YouTube. It's not like I'm going out there looking for this kind of stuff, and I'm like, who the hell is DSP? Never heard of him before, and I'm just watching channel after channel after channel go after this guy. You know, like with myself, my eBay store speaks for itself. You know, I do promote it in every video and live stream and YouTube short that most of them, not all of them. There's a couple I skip here and there. But yeah, I don't do that sort of thing. I don't ask people to join Patreon or PayPal or Cash App or any of that stuff. You know, if people want to order from my eBay store, that's the way to do it, man. But I don't e-beg like that. That's not my style. But anyway, yeah, my dad, he loved his old school sci-fi. He loved Star Trek. He loved Planet of the Apes. He loved Forbidden Planet. He loved war movies like Stalag 13, you know, all that, The Bridge Over the River Kwai. He was big with the action movies too. He loved Arnold Schwarzenegger movies and Van Damme movies. It's kind of a shame that you know, I'm not putting my dad down, but it's just the fact that, you know, he was a mountain man from Pennsylvania, and you know, like the view I have outside my home, I have a beautiful view of trees. There's a little river outside that I'll sit at sometimes just to like collect my thoughts and be, you know, when I want to be left alone and by myself, that's where I go. You know, he was more of an outdoors guy, but you know, unfortunately his career and his life ended up ending. It thrived, but ended in New York. I wanted him, you know, to be buried with my ancestors and my family in Pennsylvania, but you know, it's just, you know, it wasn't my decision. The rest of my family had a lot of say in what happened, so you know, I had to respect everybody else's wishes. So basically, I got voted out. I mean, not voted out of the family, but you know, when it came to certain decisions, you know, my dad wanted very specific things to be done when he passed. Some of it happened, some of it didn't happen, but you know, I can say I'm actually quite happy with the way things turned out because he is resting in peace with family, coincidentally in Valhalla, New York, you know, which is cool. And it is a very beautiful site, you know. You know, my ancestors' site that's in Pennsylvania is quite the site as well because it's up in the mountains there. But the site that my dad chose where the rest of my family's buried, like my cousins, my aunt, and all that stuff. My aunt and uncle, his brother, my uncle Jack, is up there, so he's with family, and it is quite a view. But you know, a place called Valhalla, you can't ask for anything better than that. So some things happened, some things didn't. You know, at the end of the day, you know, my little sister and my mom are very proud of them. My younger brother, he's dealing with a lot of stuff. I'm not going to get into it, except that I hope my niece is doing well, especially for Christmas. But yeah, I'm very proud of how my sister and my mother really, especially my younger sister who just turned 40. She handled all of this quite well. My brother wasn't handling it when it first happened. You know, and I've tried to be as strong as I can, but as Christmas is getting closer and I'm starting to remember a lot of things that he did for us, you know, yesterday hit me like a sledgehammer. I cried for hours, man. I cried for hours. I drank up probably a bottle and a half of Merlot all by myself. I got shit-faced. You know, I closed the door. I made myself some food. I fell asleep on my couch right there. You know, I woke up with a walking hangover. I think I woke up like around 8 o'clock. I think I passed out like around 5. So at least I slept and I was at home, didn't do anything rash or anything. But it's just, you know, the Christmas music, the memories, the Christmas tree, the decorations I have outside. You know, they were having a little get together for the tenants here, and I chose to opt out because I didn't want anybody to see me like this. I don't want anybody. I mean, obviously, you know, I'm talking about it on camera, but yesterday I was just feeling so fucking down and so awful. You know, I guess in a way I was kind of jealous watching everybody getting together and, walking out with plates of food or having a good time, and I'm up here on my little perch feeling down and alone and miserable, you know. Last year was a complete opposite. The girl I was with, I had a big Christmas tree right here where I'm sitting, where my work desk is, and I've never had a year like I had last year. I had people coming in and out of here all the time. I threw a big Halloween party last year. I had people here for Christmas. I had a party for New Year's, and none of that has happened this year. The complete opposite has happened, where most of my year has been spent by myself. With the exception of a few friends that I got here that I've been hanging out with, even, to this day, I'll go hang out by their place or sit with them or go talk with them for a few minutes. I've been trying to avoid certain people because they brought nothing but trouble to my doorstep. Not going to really discuss that too much. But that's caused me to withdraw more than what I'm used to. I'm used to being outside. I'm used to laughing. I'm used to being sociable. When I do my YouTube reviews, I'm used to, having a good time and having innocent, childlike fun. And even yesterday, people came up to my patio that I'm like, fucking really? You see me crying over my dad's photo, and you're here to fucking haggle me or bother me because you want beer out of my fridge because you're too fucking lazy or poor to go get your own. They weren't up here to support me. They were up here to get my beer. They weren't up here to give me a shoulder to cry on. They came up here to get my beer. Clearly my signs aren't working. And clearly the fact that I was sitting outside bawling over my father's death, that you're only up here to get beer off of me? Really? Instead of giving me a shoulder to cry on, as soon as they got their beer, they fucking left. Next time people come up here, I'm really gonna have to open up my mouth now. I have no choice. I'm gonna have to say something direct, and they're not gonna like it. I thought these signs I put up here were working for a while with, the YouTube channel's avatar, the YouTube link, and my eBay stores link. But I can't do it no more. When it comes to certain things, especially when I'm there mourning my father, thinking about my dad during the holidays, and you come up here just to get something off of me, and you don't even sit here. You get your beer and then you walk off. No more. I'm gonna have to make waves now. That's just how it's gonna be. I am not here for people to freeload off of any longer. I couldn't believe that. I needed somebody to talk to yesterday. Thank God I had my mother on the phone. But these two people came up here just to get beer off of me. Well, I gave it to them, but that'll be the last time. I've tried to stay quiet. I've tried not to make a scene outside. I've tried to keep the peace. But now I've become I've become an outlet for freeloading. I can't do it no more. My dad would have done the same thing. See, my dad was a little bit more cross than I was, and he was a little more blunt and direct. My problem is that, I've gone through so much in my life that I'm trying to avoid problems and trying to make problems and trying to keep problem makers away from me. But I'm up here listening to Christmas music with my father's big black and white photo that I have right there that I printed out. And you only come up here for beer? You have no idea how sick that fucking made me. That's really what set me off yesterday. I'm like, so this is all I'm here on this planet for, is to give people shit and not getting anything in return. No more. That's why I'm glad my mother called me to calm me down. Because that's not fair to me at all. That's not fair to me at all. And this has been going on for months. Someone here the other day gave me a little bottle of Fireball and said, "Here, man, here's some Fireball for you." It was halfway gone. It was opened, which means he drank half of it. this year has been very frustrating in more ways than one. How I haven't snapped emotionally should be a sign that all those years of finding ways to occupying myself and getting away from certain things and finding places to go. Like I have 2 or 3 little spots that I'll sit at when the weather is nice, where I just want to be left alone, to find places to go, to find some solace and peace. You know, I got my eBay store, I got this YouTube channel, I got my collectibles, my sports cards. But the disrespect of just coming up here to get beer, and you see I'm honoring my dad. I didn't want to be around anybody yesterday. And you come up here just to get beer and then you walk away? The fuck? I mean, I don't ask for anything from anybody around here. Not at all. I don't ask people for car rides. I don't ask people to borrow their tools. But everybody does it with me, and I get nothing in return. To me, it was an insult to my father yesterday. And I'm beginning to have enough of it. You know, even when I'm doing my YouTube stuff here, there are videos I've had to stop and take down because they're talking about stuff that I don't want people talking about. And I've made a promise to somebody not to discuss certain things, but I've had to take YouTube videos down because they'll just walk into my apartment. I'll be like, you know, or I'm doing live streams and I don't want people to hear certain things because, again, trying to avoid problems and trouble. But then, you know, they'll bring it up in the background and then I got to take that live stream down. Or they end up asking me for this and asking me for that and asking for this. And meanwhile, I'm watching these same people bring others food and drink. What about me? Don't I get something? I've been giving out fucking beer and food to everybody around here for the past 8 months, 9 months. How about me? Don't I get something in return? But I expect nothing less. I'm used to that sort of thing. That's why these days I've kind of just focused on the channel, honored my dad the way I want to honor my dad. I've been trying to date again to try to get over my ex, with as useless as that is, as today's women are out of their fucking minds, especially the last 2 or 3 I started talking to. I just cut ties because they're out of their minds. I think I talked about this with that one girl I met right over here at this one place I go to get Chinese food and stuff. And she was there talking with me for an hour, but she was pissed drunk, and I should have seen through that because I'm not that type of guy to take advantage. And she goes and sits next to this elephant, and then she's rubbing her rear end all over this woman, and falls on her ass drunk, and they end up throwing her out. Thank God I didn't pursue that. Which, by the way, the phone number she gave me, I don't even know if I talked about this. The phone number that this girl gave me was a fake phone number, and a guy answered the phone twice. I said, hey, man, not for nothing. You know, I apologize. I met this woman at this place. She gave me this number. I don't know. I didn't know, you know, my bad. And, you know, my fault. If you want to talk like man to man or anything like that, you know, that's fine. But I sincerely apologize. This woman gave me this number over at this place, and, you know, here we are. So I don't want you to think anything's going on. It's just I got duped. He's like, no, I understand, man. No, it's not like that. I'm not angry. No, but I appreciate you being honest. I'm like, yeah, man, I'm so sorry, dude. But anyway, I'll delete the number. You won't hear from me again. Merry Christmas, and I'm sorry that this happened. So I'm still going to be watching the stream, but I hope you have the best Christmas. Yeah, I'm pretty much prepared for this week when Christmas comes, you know. Actually, I got a couple of eBay orders. I did print out the shipping labels. They're actually on one of my bar stools right there. You know, I have been getting some orders coming in here and there. I actually had a decent one. I didn't get the kind of money I was hoping for one of these signed sports cards that I listed recently, but at least I got something out of it. But, you know, with everything else, I'm kind of prepared for what's going to come. It's going to be a very, very melancholy Christmas for me. It's going to be a very melancholy Christmas. And by extension, New Year's too. You know, it's just losing my dad, I think. This one is going to take time. I'm sure you folks will probably get sick and tired of hearing me talk about it. I know a lot of people here on YouTube, when certain content creators keep talking about the same thing, it tends to wear on them a little bit. I'm just going through a weird patch until I can get past Christmas and New Year. You know, I think I'll be set straight again. So I hope you guys can forgive me for that. But I got plenty of stuff to review. Man, the stuff I got to review, I got sports cards lined up for 2026. I actually have a separate box that I've already started lining up new sports cards to sell for 2026. So that's all set up. I got review units coming. My Lyo Convoy, my Beast Wars Lyo Convoy for Takara is supposed to be shipped in January. That thing was supposed to have been here in August. I also ordered for Studio Series Soundwave and Missing Link Ultra Magnus, which I must be out of my mind because that thing is like $200. I might just go ahead and cancel it. I'm not sure yet. We'll see. Will I buy more sports cards in the future? I might just I might demote myself to buying singles, because what I see going on in the hobby now, that's why I started selling a lot of slabs that I have. All for full transparency. You know, it's like this one. I've tried to list this for what I've comped it for. Nobody will touch it. Now, I started the auction off at $20. All of a sudden, people are bidding on it. That goes to show you how fucked up this hobby is. Last night, I sold an Ethan Salas SGC 1010. The comp that I got for it for an SGC 1010 was $2,500. I comped it for a PSA, surprisingly, for a lot less. And a recent sale of that card was like $800. You know how much mine sold for? $400. This hobby is gone. It's off the rails. It's completely off the rails. And I guarantee that card will be resold for 3 times what I sold it for. I could see I'm not going to get what I want from this card. The sports card hobby is a mess. When I saw what happened with PSA and Beckett, and now I think, what was it, a senator in New York? Said, wait a second, you just bought up Beckett and you just bought up you bought SGC? That's starting to look a little too much like a monopoly to me, and we have antitrust laws against that sort of thing. The sports card hobby is a disaster. I just don't see it getting any better. You know, I already, if some people haven't noticed, over at my eBay store, there's a lot more $10 and $20 cards listed for sale. Those are my PC cards. Just a small, tiny fraction of the PC cards I've accumulated, because the sports card hobbies turn me off. The greed and the scams. I had three no delivery claims on eBay recently. All 3 were reversed, so there's no effect to my account. But 3 people tried to claim, and this is within a month of each other, tried to claim that they didn't receive their cards, which they did, and it clearly shows it, but they were trying to get free cards off of me. These fucking people are disgusting, man. This hobby is shit. There are some good, honest collectors out there who are collectors. They're not out there to just open up a pack, or like the breakers. Oh, look, $15,000 card, and immediately puts it on eBay. They're not collectors, they're profiteers. And then people that want them cards, they have to mortgage their house to get those cards. Albeit vintage cards like the Ken Griffey that I have, the 1989 Star Rookie, that deserves a premium price. My Don Mattingly rookie, pardon me, that deserves a premium price. My dad's vintage, which I don't know if I'm going to be able to, if I want to have them graded or not. Pardon me. My dad's Mickey Mantle and Hank Aaron and Frank Robinson and all that. I don't know if I want them graded now, because the hobby's out of control. If I'm going to get them graded, it's going to be for me. Like, that's the main reason why I'm parting with these, is because, one, the hobby is really showing its true colors now for what it is. It's about greed. That's why sneaker culture died. I have plenty of sneakers. I don't need any more. If there were any more sneakers I would probably pick up, would be the Bugs Bunny 8s that are coming out this week. Or is it this week or next week? I think it's next week. But those would be the only releases I would get. All these other Jordans have no interest. Have no interest. But sneaker culture died, and sneakerheads got stuck with shoes that they were trying to flip, because people are tired of having to go through a third person to buy shit. And it's starting to happen now with sports cards, and I'm glad it is. All of these LCSs that are flipping boxes for 3X, all of these worthless welfare, high school dropout, fat fucks that are out there with no education, no skills of any kind. They can't fold a piece of paper. That's why they flip, because they're worthless and they're useless. These are the ones pushing for $15 an hour minimum wage because they're fucking worthless people. Taking away jobs that were meant for teenagers just to get experience in the workplace, so when they get older, they can find a real job. But you got these worthless adults stealing Pokemon cards from kids and selling those Pokemon cards for 3 or 4 times more than what they're valued at, just to put money in their pocket because they're worthless. They're food stamp assholes. I can say that because I was on food stamps. Thank you, eBay business, for helping to supplement my income. And I always try to be fair, and I offer discounts to my customers wherever I can. I put in free cards with certain orders. If you order enough cards off of me, I start putting freebies in there. Everybody knows that, who's bought off of me. But yeah, the hobby has wore me thin at this point. What I've been seeing, especially now with PSA taking over Beckett. Beckett, I was planning in 2026 to have my dad's card submitted to Beckett, because the things that are going on with SGC leave a lot to be desired. And now that PSA bought them out, I can't trust Beckett now. This hobby's out of control. You get less cards for more money per jumbo box and hobby box. Scotty B, I think it was Scotty B talked about that in one of his recent videos. You know, you're getting less product for more money. So what's the point? That's what you call shrinkflation. I want my money's worth. We all do. You see that with food today. Boxes of cereal used to be big and fat like this, and now they're about that thin. For $6, $7 a box of cereal, fuck that. I'm really starting to sound like the Grinch here, folks. I'm sorry. I really am. I'm really sorry. It's just there's so much crap in the back of my brain that I'm just frustrated. I'm frustrated with a lot of things. And forgive me for coming off as being a little salty. I should just stop right there. Keep my mouth shut. I'm salty about a lot of things. It's just a lot of things in this life, unfortunately, are just unfair. You know, I voted for this guy in the White House to lower prices on groceries. Even today, when I went to go get some ginger, thank God Walmart are having sales on certain things. But the price of groceries hasn't gone down. It's actually gone up. That's not what I voted for. All this stuff with him deporting people left and right, people that are doing an honest living, working in restaurants. Yeah, some of them have background records that, you know, are shady. You know, but a lot of people that come here, they want to work and they want the American dream. And you're shoving those people out of here. And then meanwhile, we have American-born citizens who don't even know how to screw in a light bulb. They don't know how to write cursive. They pronounce the word often. It's often. I actually have a UFT medal right there that I got in school for language. Now I sound like I'm just mindlessly ranting, folks. Again, forgive me. You know, forgive me for that. I'm just frustrated with a lot of things, unfortunately. You know, I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated with the way the sports card hobby has gone. I now see that it's not worth it. In 2026, I'm going to make a decision sometime whether or not I liquidate all my cards and shut down my eBay business permanently. I was thinking about it. It would cost me about $150 to file the paperwork to close down my LLC. I've decided against that for now because my sales have been doing pretty well. Again, like today, I got 4 sales. Which, thank God, I didn't make the mistake of what I did last year, and that was to close down my eBay shop for 2 weeks. I decided not to do that, and it's been helping quite a bit. You know, I used some of that money to go get ginger ale. I put the ginger ale away. That's actually a bottle of wine left over from yesterday. But Yeah, I'm thinking about just cleaning house of my sports cards. That goes for the Griffey, that goes for the Mattingly. We'll see how it plays out. But what I'm seeing in the hobby now with this PSA thing, the scams, the cons. Now my customers are going to get charged extra for shipping, which has nothing to do with me. That's the post office. I'm kind of, lost without my dad, talking to him all the time. I still can't believe he's gone. I still hold trauma in my brain from what Jenny did to me. That's her name. Fuck it. What Jenny did to me. For nothing. For absolutely no reason. No logical reason. This has been a very, very hard year, folks, for yours truly. I'm lucky I have a roof over my head. I'm lucky I have food in my refrigerator. I'm lucky I have the smarts to at least have something to fall back on, like my sports cards and a lot of the content I make here on the channel with Transformers and all that stuff, that at least I keep myself occupied and keep myself busy that way, that I just don't waste away drinking beer from 8 o'clock in the morning to 9 o'clock at night like some people I know. All day, all night, smoking weed and drinking. Smoke weed, drink. Smoke weed, drink. Smoke weed, drink. I don't know how people can live like that. I can't. And I won't. It's very hard to celebrate Christmas, at least for me. I got that little Christmas tree right here. Because what my ex did, she took a Christmas tree that I had that was about the same size as this one that I had for about fucking almost a decade, and bought this gigantic one last year. And I let her, I let her have the benefit of the doubt. But then when all that stuff happened, I put that big motherfucker right in the dump, right here on the property, threw it right out. Months and months later, I bought this appropriate tree that's appropriately sized for my apartment. It's even looking at this new tree, it's hard because I start remembering a lot of things, not just the good things. I remember the bad stuff, and I shouldn't, but I do. I just hope 2026 is going to be better. It's just funny how I look at, I'm looking at my dad's picture there with that icon that they took off of his coffin. They gave one to me, my brother, my sister, and my mom. One off of each corner. There's just now trying to accept the reality that he's not here no more. If you can't tell, I'm choked up a little bit because this year I weathered a storm of all sorts of shit. I mean, well, at least I can say I got a roof over my head. I got more clothes and sneakers and I know what to do with. I got my eBay store for now, depending on how I feel next year. I've got my own little universe here. I've got my health. I mean, well, with the exception of the high blood sugar, I've got my health. At least my family and myself, we had some sort of reconciliation with each other, which is good. That always helps. I got friends here, there, and everywhere, which is good. So in a lot of ways, I'm lucky that way. At least those things I appreciate. Even Turbo Man over here. Stupid.
Good work, Booster.
What? He's a Christmas decoration now. And that's all I really got to say, folks. Thank you for taking the time to listen to all this. I know it wasn't exactly the most upbeat discussion or anything like that, but sometimes, like, a guy just needs to vent a little bit. I know I'm going to have a good Christmas. Like, I know a lot of you are going to have a good Christmas. It's just this year is a little more difficult because of the circumstances that led to this point. I mean, my dad knew it was coming. And I've got photos of him that the world will never see. With him in his final moments, nobody will ever see those photos except for me. But it's just the conversations are gone. And so is he. So, anyway, folks, I think that's pretty much it. I'm not sure what I'm going to do up until Christmas time, if I'm going to make any content or not. I really don't know. We'll see. I mean, I'm very good at changing my mind from one day to the next anyway, so let's see what happens. Thank you to my eBay customers. I do have 4 orders that I did print out. I just have to finish processing them and get them out tomorrow. To all of you, thank you for your patience and your time. Don't let YouTubers fool you into thinking that everything is peachy keen and perfect and their lives are perfect. That's all bullshit, because at the end of the day, people are going through things. Some people choose to not talk about it. Some people do. I'm kind of somewhere in the middle of all that. But thank you. Thank you for supporting me, your fellow hobbyists and collectors and all that stuff. I wish the stuff that's going on in the sports card hobby wasn't happening. Same goes for Pokemon TCG. I wish that stuff wasn't happening. But it is. And on that note, folks, I'm going to have myself a little something to eat. It's almost 7 o'clock. It's actually 20 minutes to 7 my time here on the East Coast. So, again, God bless you all. Forgive me again, for venting like this. It's just, with the holidays coming, I'm sure for a lot of you, you probably have stuff going on like I got stuff going on. Just want to let you know you're not the only ones, man. Never think you're alone. I know you feel alone like I feel alone, but you're not. Believe me when I'm telling you. There's someone out there that's feeling exactly like how you are. Believe me when I'm telling you. And if I don't make any content for the rest of the week, just have a Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, all that good stuff. Enjoy what you got, folks. You got one life. Please live it. Don't waste it. Take care, everybody, and I will see you all very soon.